inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh. I'm also your city manager. And we're here today with Lori Deutsch from MatForce to talk about a new initiative that we've been trying out here in the Verde Valley. It's called the Good Behavior Game. And it's something that we're trying to get implemented in our schools to basically help with student conduct and performance at the young age. And, you know, and if I can, let me just go back a little bit in the interest of full disclosure. I am the co-chair of MatForce, which was started back in 2006 as a result of the kind of the meth epidemic we were facing at that time. And we were very successful in reducing the use of meth and all the negative consequences that went along with meth. And since that time, we've moved into underage drinking, prescription drug abuse, heroin use and abuse, obviously involved in a lot of prevention, treatment emphasis, just a ton of things trying to make our county, Yavapai County, a better place to be and really reduce substance abuse. Particularly focused on young people, making sure that our next generation is prepared to move forward in the workforce and become the next leaders of our community. And so as part of that, we do get very involved with the schools in trying to help them in developing good students and, like I said, good leaders for the future. And this was a program that MatForce didn't develop, but heard about, looked into. So what is the Good Behavior Game? Where did it come from? Kind of give us the background on that, Lori.
So good morning. The Good Behavior Game, the prefix for it is Paxis Good Behavior Game. So if anyone wants to go online and look it up, they can. Was actually developed by a 4th grade teacher in looking at developing a classroom management style. So it's not that anyone using it has to change anything that they're teaching, any of the topics or the way that their curriculum is structured. It's a way that teachers interact with their students. And so it's a framework for the classroom. And it was developed, I believe, originally in Ohio, but currently in Arizona, out of the U of A, they have trainers that go out across the United States or even in Canada and provide the training for teachers. You can train up to 40 teachers at a time on what this structure is, how they set up the classroom, and then the observations that they're going to do with the youth, and eventually developing a timed game is what it's called, and that's why it's called the Good Behavior Game, which allows students to have focus on what they're working on. The program has been so successful that SAMHSA, the substance abuse branch up in the federal government, actually funded a grant and did research with it, and it's evidence-based. So when looking at curriculum to take to the school, we want to ensure that we're taking something that has evidence behind it. And it has over 17 years of study, and NREP, the National Registry for Curriculum, actually has 2 different studies on it. And it really points to how, when taught this framework, the students are able to have better self-management that has shown awesome results years out. And so it has increased graduation rates from high school. It has increased the number of youth going into higher education, and it has decreased risky behaviors, including substance abuse. And that's the reason that MatForce looked at this specific curriculum and looked at its studies, heard from Dr. Embry, who is out of the U of A, and the results that he has seen. And with that, also it linked to what we were seeing on our Arizona Youth Survey for youth in Yavapai. The youth were indicating that they were feeling sad, and one of the reasons that they took risky behaviors, including substance abuse, was as a coping skill. So what we looked at is how do we educate earlier and at a younger age, including kindergarten. So we trained kindergarten teachers how to use the structure, the PAC structure, the Good Behavior Game, and we're hoping that it really helps those youth develop those self-management skills as they move through schools. Through school, they're more successful in the classroom, and it also will allow teachers more time. So when you get to talk to the teachers, they'll explain how that comes about. So that was why we looked at it and decided, and thankfully to the board, they allotted funding within MapForce to pilot it here in the Verde because it's not being used right now in Arizona. And so we wanted to ensure that it was something that teachers would come to the training and also utilize in the classroom. So all the teachers that responded last year came, and we have some very good successes from that pilot project.
So which schools is it being tested in now in the Verde?
There are teachers across all the schools, Sedona, Beaver Creek, the schools in the Cottonwood area that have been trained in Camp Verde. But in order for us to, within MapForce, and for me to observe how it's working, the teachers have to request or take baseline observations. And so the spleens are the disruptive behaviors that the youth are displaying in the classroom. It could be from talking out, getting up out of their seat when they shouldn't, fidgeting, talking to their neighbor, not being on task. So to count those original spleens at the beginning of school and then track that is something that we have been able to monitor in 2 schools, Dr. Daniel Bright and Big Park Elementary. And we have the stats that show when the teachers began and how it's been implemented since. We also are going to continue to build having sessions where teachers can come and discuss what worked for them so that they really can bounce ideas off each other and get their own feedback. So we'll implement that in this next year. And in addition, we're having a training for teachers, more teachers, to come and learn the style in July. And some of the teachers who may have used one part of the game, which is known in the language as a kernel, so a piece of the game, can come and get a refresher course, talk to the teachers who have been successful, who have seen great strides being taken by their students, and then fully implement it this next year. We'll also recruit more observers, so it'd be great to have any retired teachers. The observations are for 15 minutes, and the PAX Institute has a evaluation tool that we can use. So many teachers, 37 trained last year, I would say 6 fully implemented it this year, but many more implemented kernels, and we haven't tracked that. We've just tracked those that are fully implementing. So we hope to boost that to triple the amount. So
when I met with the teachers recently and I heard the word spleen, I was like, what's a spleen?
Yeah.
And I guess it's just a made-up word?
Yes. So when they go to the training, they actually have the teachers put their hand on their mouth to say spleen. So instead of that's bad just can sound harsher. Right. So spleen was actually developed through just trying out different words. What could we use to track a behavior that doesn't make the child, shrink inside when they say, oh, that, instead of saying, oh, that was bad, or don't do that, even don't is harsher terminology. Right. And even the sound. So a spleen is any type of classroom disruption. And they don't take it as it's bad. They just know it's, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
And so what has been the feedback from the teachers and the administrators on the program so far?
It's a mixed bag, because when the school year starts, from my perception, and the teachers can that are going to talk to you can share more, it's hard to add something new unless you've really set yourself up to really know what you're going to do at that first week. And it does take a week, and the teachers will say how they did that, to really have the students get used to, here's how we're going to have things structured. And then once they start, they get into it. So if the teacher hasn't prepped well, and for us doing the training last year was at the end of July, I don't think the teachers had enough time to really even look at the tools in depth to then start it, because school started the next week. This year we're going to do the training the middle of July. We'll come back and have an impromptu meeting, see if they have any questions, if they have all the tools, and then they can start it. Those teachers that had the training last year and even tried a little bit, now they're set to start and get up and running. The administrators that have gone in and observed like it, because they see that where those classrooms that are using it have a lot of positive qualities going on in their classroom and are getting great results with the students. What we'll also do is track how the classrooms in general we'll go back and get some baseline data and start tracking that over the next couple of years, because that's what administrators want to see too. For teachers that were trained last year and even used a kernel, just a piece of it, they have demonstrated that even having a student know about one piece is better than not having them know any part of it at all. So how to do a timed game, which is a concentrated effort on a topic. So yes, we're going to say this year, a higher percentage is using the full game, and it just is truly reflective in the classroom when you go in. So it's a lot of fun.
You know, and I got to imagine that how you kind of enforce conduct, you know, encourage good conduct in the classroom has changed dramatically since I went to school, because, you know, if I messed up, I got sent to the principal, and you know, my parents got called, and it was, it went downhill from there.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty negative experience, but it sounds like this is based on trying to recognize and encourage positive behavior as opposed to making a big deal about bad behavior almost.
Yes, and the Cottonwood School District is actually looking at a whole structure, a positive behavior structure that really helps develop that language, that positive language. Other frameworks, including character counts, including Kids at Hope, and the PAX Good Behavior game are all based on that premises of positive. And we know nowadays with youth, the scare tactics don't work. It may have worked when you and I were in school, and you know, that was, my mom always said, if you get yourself in the principal's office, you get yourself out, because she knew, you know, she wasn't going to bail us out. Might have to come and talk to us. So, but that is something that I don't think administrators even have the time for anymore, because of all of the infrastructure in school, all of the things going on, that by integrating some of these frameworks, classroom frameworks, they can really, you know, head off and really ensure that children are being positively, the behavior is positively focused on instead of negatively, which then means that people will repeat that because they realize, oh, that's a good way, and that leaves them feeling better than, you know, ending up in the principal's office or something like that. So yes, the positive behavior system is, it will be interesting to, in PBIS, a positive behavior intervention system, is actually something people can go in and look at, and to understand why schools are looking at this. So it's happening across the United States, that they're recognizing that enforcing the negative just has, you know, that be repeated, that behavior be repeated. So what can we do instead to have positive behavior be looked at, recognized, and then the student and or even with our pets, then they do the good things again. So yeah, so I think less with principals.
Let's go ahead and take our first break, but come back and join us, because we're going to bring in a couple of teachers who've been using the program and get their firsthand account and experience and how successful this seems to be going. And again, Yavapai County, in terms of Arizona, is really on the cutting edge of how to encourage good behavior, and particularly to avoid substance abuse. So come back and join us.
This new mom is struggling to get the skates just right. And now she's holding on for dear life. Her kids can see she may have broke her knees. They still love her though she looks like she's attacked by killer bees. I'm allergic. You don't have to be perfect to be the perfect parent.
Thousands of siblings in foster care will take you just as you are.
Honored today to have a couple of our great elementary school teachers in studio today, Miss Fisher and Miss Faubert.
Yes.
They're both from Daniel Bright, and Miss Fisher is teaching first grade.
Correct.
Miss Faubert is second grade.
That's right.
And we were talking about the good behavior game, and so you've brought in some items here, and I guess what I'd like to know is, how do you go about implementing this in the classroom?
Well, the very first day, we take hold of it and introduce it to the kids one step at a time. So we talk about the different parts. We talk about the voice, the PAX voice being either 0 PAX voice, that's when it's totally quiet, 3-inch voice, which means just the person next to you would be able to hear you. A 3-foot voice, maybe something that you would use in the front of the room. And then a 10-foot voice, which is outside voices. So that would be one of the things that we introduce right at the beginning. And what it is for our PAX notification, like we use our harmonicas. So it's just a sound, a very simple sound that comes, and they all have to stop and look at the teacher, not talk, and they're listening. And so that becomes a signal that there's instruction that needs to be given, and then they go right back to work.
I've never seen such small harmonicas here.
We had a bigger one, but it kept getting caught on the table, so
I understand.
now we go to the little ones.
And so, how do the kids see this as an incentive? I mean, kind of to conduct themselves appropriately in the classroom.
Well, I know that they really enjoy playing the games. They've been asked to play the games, even though it's really just them getting their work done. It's a real positive experience for them, and they talk about how they're just excited to come to school because they get to play the games.
So we talked about the word spleen. So what is their reaction? I mean, when you see somebody, do a spleen, what happens?
Well, we don't try to isolate a particular student. A lot of times they work on a team. And so if someone is bumping their pencil all the time, or sitting back in their chair, or talking when they're not supposed to, that would be considered a spleen or a non-productive activity. And so it could be as simple as just going and touching a counter on the table, or a team, there's a leader, a team leader has to go and just mark one mark for their team, which means they got a spleen. And if they have more than 3 spleens, then they're not allowed to play the game.
Wow.
Right, yeah.
And so what is the kids' reaction to this?
Usually we try to keep it real bland, and just when we say, oh, spleen group 1, then they seem to just go with it, and we don't call it out. And later at the very end of the game, we'll say, well, I saw a lot of chair tipping and pencil tapping, so maybe that's something to work on for the next game. And it's not like you're calling out a student to go up and change their card or walk up in front of everybody and I did something wrong. I think it's a more positive way of handling behavior, because you're not really reacting to that certain behavior, and they're not sure what the behavior exactly was. Maybe they just know that their group earned a spleen.
So I assume neither one of you are child psychologists, so I may be asking you something that is outside your realm here, but so what do you see as the difference? I mean, how would you previously handle issues like this in the class, and why does this new approach seem so much better?
Well, I used to, if you don't mind, I used to use an honor board, and I'd say, okay, you've done something wrong, go up and turn your card, and they'd have to walk up in front of everybody, turn their card, and that was a more negative kind of experience for that child. Now this seems a more positive way of dealing with misbehavior, and they're not being singled out. They don't feel that. They want to be part of a good team working together in order to do something fun at the end.
They take ownership of it, which this was something different. They all wanted to do it together. And so as a result, I just go and set the timer, and they go, we're playing a PAX game. Everybody get straight, and they all help each other. And we go through a very definite, I don't know if it's a ceremony, but they build their bracelets, and they become PAX leaders then. And so they are able to help someone. If they did something that's a misbehavior, they're allowed to say, "We're playing a PAX game. You know, stop your pencil," and that's a good thing. And they do it very quietly. And I just found that even in the hallway, you can use the PAX game in the hallway, in the assemblies, different areas, which takes it outside the classroom. Then it can be at home, and the parents can carry that even at home or in their community. So I feel if I can be helping a student that is young now make better choices later on because they understand the positive, good feeling that it's given, I've done my job as a teacher.
Let's go ahead and take another break, and then we'll come back and find out, you know, how this impacts the classroom overall and the students in particular. Come back and join us.
No.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
Welcome back to Inside Cottonwood. I'm your host, Doug Bartosh, and we're here today with Miss Faubert and Miss Fisher from Daniel Bright Elementary School, and we're talking about the good behavior game. And so you brought in some tools here. Talk a little bit about those.
Okay. Well, the first thing, PAX Quiet, is done with a single sound of a harmonica, and that they learn at the very beginning of the school year what happens when that sound goes off. And they have to stop what they're doing, so they freeze. They have to look at the teacher or the person who did the harmonica, and then they're listening. They have to be very quiet. And so that's the key tool right there. We have toodles, which eliminate tattletaling, which to a teacher, that is
another name for tattle. Instead of doing a tattle, you do a toodle.
Which is a positive comment. So if someone has been kind to you or has helped you up if you've fallen or helped you tie your shoe or something like that, they were able to make a positive comment about how that person helped them. And then we post it on a big board.
And also if they come up running to you at recess, after recess, to tell you something, I'll always say, is this a tattle or a toodle?
Right.
And hopefully it's a toodle.
And this one is the Granny's Wacky Prizes. And so as a teacher, I know the value of prize boxes and the amount of money that is spent and put into trying to motivate our children. And this is all done without having to spend money. And so the prizes could be as simple as a
giggle fest.
Yeah, a giggle
for
fest.
10 seconds.
Or for 10 seconds, get on the floor and wiggle like a worm. And for some reason, the kids just absolutely want these so badly. Yes. And so if they get, when the time is up and they haven't had any spleens, which are bad behaviors, then they are able to play the game.
That's right.
And you pointed to this earlier. Let me hold this up. And what is this again?
Oh, that's a little card that they can have on their desk, and if they're having, they're doing the right thing, you can point to Go PAX, and if they're not doing what they should be, then you might want to point.
No spleen.
It's just a reminder.
Just a reminder, and sometimes even in an assembly, I'll point, Go PAX, no spleens, you know, and they'll know that there might be a few spleens going on, or they're doing the right things. So.
It allows the class to move or to continue without the interruption of, okay, why are you doing that? And
right.
And it helps it go smoother.
So Did you guys do this for the whole school year this last year?
From day one.
And then I guess the bottom line is, what did you see? What was the result of this?
Well, on the first week, we kept track of all the spleens, and it was very difficult because within 15 minutes, you can count 75 to 80
Right.
spleens going on that first week. And so we kind of got a baseline, and we talked about we want to have a wonderful school and what it looks like and sounds like and feels like in a wonderful school. And so that's how we introduced the PACs at that point. And
Right after that, it decreased.
Right. We started talking about what a spleen was because they usually know what it is, but sometimes they don't understand that maybe pencil tapping is considered a spleen, or tattletelling might be considered a spleen. So they learned what a spleen was right away.
And by the end of the year, our spleens were just, they could play a 20-minute game and maybe there's one or two
right,
spleens,
and I got up
maybe.
to 38 minutes at the end of the year. I was really happy. That's 38 minutes of teaching time with few interruptions.
Right.
And I really like that.
So obviously that translates into more quality learning
Definitely.
Exactly.
for the students. And in terms of behavior, what did you begin to see?
They were kinder to each other and more supportive, helpful.
And calmer, more relaxed, it seemed. And they weren't showing off anymore for each other. And they were getting their work done, and that was a positive thing. They wanted to get their work done.
And every once in a while, you will encounter that student who just can't quite take ownership of it yet. And it gets to a point where the other people on the team say, well, we can never play the game because of him. So there's a little bit of peer pressure. Sometimes that's enough to bring them around. And sometimes we just have to put them as a team of their own.
Yeah.
And so then they're responsible for whether they play the game or not. And it doesn't interfere with the other children on the team.
So how does this compare to like the year before? You know, if you can make...
Oh, you go ahead. 'Cause
I've never had a beginning of the year so smooth. And what I noticed was with Carol's class and my class, we would walk down the hallway and we're playing the PAX game and the kids are all just perfect, quiet, and they're real smooth walking down the hallway. And the other teachers started to notice. And so they would come and say, what are you doing? What's this PAX game? How are you doing it? And so we were starting to share the kernels a little bit, start with this, start with that. And so I think the benefit of having kindergarten started and be fully engaged in PAX when they come to first grade, that would make our job so much easier. And then by the time they get to second grade or third grade, it is so ingrained in their behavior that they're making right choices all the time.
And the difference for me was it made coming to work fun, coming to school fun, because I knew that they were excited to learn. And that's the difference I noticed, that they were just so excited to be there and to learn a new concept.
So in how many... do you continue it after third grade, or
Well, I think they're trying to implement it to...
even further?
I taught fourth grade the year before this year that I've taught second, and I could see how that could be really implemented into fourth grade. You just maybe change a few things and the way you handle the Granny's Wacky Prizes, but I think they'd have buy-in, and I think fourth graders would like it.
So where do you see this going in terms of, you know, Daniel Bright or the rest of the schools in the Valley?
I'd like to see it go beyond the schools. I mean, yes, in the schools, that's a great start. But if we can get the parents involved, if we can get community members involved, so that when they see a child, you know, doing something out that's not, say, you know, remember PAX, or just even just a word in the vocabulary works well, I think it could do well and spread into the community as well.
Right.
It's a great idea. So do you, I mean, how do you predict this will change behavior in later years? I mean, just based on what your observations are.
Maybe a perspective in how they approach something. Maybe get to work because they know there's a time limit.
And I think that there'll be less dropout rate because the kids are excited to come to school And as they get in the higher grades, I'm hoping that will continue and into high school, and there'll be a less dropout rate in the high schools.
And it's not isolating a student who feels, oh, I'm never going to be any good or something like that. They can be a member of a team and accomplish great things with PACS.
Right.
And I know we're looking at how we implement this with Kids at Hope too.
Right.
You know, again, kind of that same concept of, you know,
can all do it.
no kid's a throwaway. Every kid is worth investing in, and they just need the right support, and they can succeed. And so hopefully that's where this goes too. But any feedback from the parents?
Yes, I sent home multiple just updates on our PACS program in our classroom, and some of the parents use that at home, would say, and others would come and say, what is this spleem, or what is this? And so we go over it with them, and they understand then the vocabulary the child is using. And I think as far as siblings, they can use it beyond the classroom. They can actually take it home and use it with their brothers and sisters.
You know, that I can see the value of using it, not just at school, but obviously at home too, and that's certainly something we're going to need to look at. But unfortunately, we're out of time. I want to thank our two teachers, Ms. Fisher and Ms. Faubert, and thank you for all your service to our community. Our teachers are just fantastic. But thanks for joining us on Inside Cottonwood, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.